Which DBD survivor would win in Squid Game? Well, in today's video, we're about to find out. With season 2 of Squid Game just coming out and being the talk of the internet, I thought it'd be fun to imagine an alternate reality where DBD's entity realm turned out to be Squid Games, and all 45 survivors were entered in, with each of their lives being worth 1 billion won for a grand total prize of 45 billion won. So in today's video, we're gonna see how that story would play out. I put on this green jacket in honor of Squid Game. It's the closest thing to those green tracksuits they wear, but it goes without saying, major spoilers ahead if you haven't seen Squid Games already. I'll be using all 6 games from season 1, seeing as if season 2's Squid Games didn't actually finish. Still an amazing season, by the way, definitely watch it. So I'll be seeing which single survivor comes out on top. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the game. So in round 1, the contestants played red light, green light, which is a pretty simple game where the players are allowed to move when the doll says green light, and then have to freeze when she says red light. And then anybody that's caught moving during red light is eliminated. So heading into this with the DBD survivors having no idea that when they're eliminated, they actually die. 2 survivors stick out to me right away and not taking these games as seriously, which are Asteri and Nicolas Cage. Asteri being a bard and being happy-go-lucky, and Nick Cage just being Nick Cage. I think these would be the 2 survivors that get caught moving first and then eliminated. And the rest of the survivors to get eliminated in round 1, Jane, Cheryl, Gabriel, Quentin, Nancy, and Felix. I think out of all the survivors would be the only ones that would start panicking and running back towards the doors to try and escape. And in that chaos, I feel like a few of those would probably just get caught in the crossfire and then get tripped on and also fall over and get eliminated themselves. But seeing as the survivors are in the entity realm for surviving at all costs with whatever they had going on in their life, I feel like most of them actually would survive this first red light, green light game. So the results heading back to the dormitory after round 1, 8 survivors were eliminated, meaning the remaining 37 survivors would split 8 billion won amongst each other. But the games continue and the survivors head into round 2, where they play a game called Dalgona, where the contestants form a line and choose between 4 shapes, either a triangle, square, circle, or umbrella. And upon opening the can, it's a Dalgona cookie where the contestants have a needle and 10 minutes to carve out the shape in the cookie. So of course, umbrella is the hardest and triangle is the easiest. So the survivors to be eliminated from this round were Jeff, Steve, Zarina, Elodie, Hattie, Trevor, and Tari. Jeff, Steve, and Trevor were too rough with their cookies and ended up snapping the shape and the cookie in half. Zarina and Elodie both picked umbrella, which was too complicated, and they snapped the stem off the umbrella. Hattie did choose the easiest shape in the triangle, but she crumbled under the pressure and somehow messed up. And then Tari ran out of time with her shape because she tried to perform a ritual to save herself, and that took 5 of the 10 minutes of the game. And then the rest of the survivors lived. Like in round 1, most of these survivors are resilient, smart, and don't ever give up. So they either found a way to carve out the Dalgona cookie into their correct shape, or they were able to choose the smart strategy of licking the cookie. Or like in Ace's case, he's unlucky and lucky at the same time. He was unlucky and chose the umbrella, but somehow ended up getting lucky and carved out his umbrella. But heading back to the dormitory, 7 more survivors were eliminated, so the 30 remaining survivors would split 15 billion won amongst each other. So heading into the night before round 3, a fight breaks out in the dormitory where a group of tough guys led by David and his right-hand henchman Jake have a big argument with the Resident Evil group and end up taking out Jill and Rebecca. The core group of main survivors ended up jumping in and breaking it all up, but 2 survivors were eliminated, meaning the 28 remaining survivors were splitting 17 billion won amongst each other. So now heading into round 3, the survivors play tug of war, where in Squid Game, 2 teams of 10 head up to 2 giant platforms and they try and pull the rope onto their own side, where the losing 10 contestants fall in the middle off the giant platforms to their death. But since there were way more contestants in Squid Game than there are DB survivors, I split the DB survivors up into 4 groups of 7, which were all formed based off prior alliances and friendships built in the previous 2 rounds. So the first group was Dwight, Meg, Claudette, Naya, Fang, Bill, and Jake. These are the main characters of these Squid Games. It's the core group of survivors that all bonded together, and they're the original survivors. Jake is the outcast of this group, being the right-hand man henchman to David and his group of bad guys, but he only infiltrated this group because he had no other choice and got kicked out of the big group. The second group is Vittorio, Ace, Alan, Tab, Jonah, Ash, and Yoichi. These are the 7 henchmen and tough bad guys that are led by David. The third group was David, Renato, Thelina, Leon, Ada, Sable, and Michaela. And this group was formed by inseparable pairs of 2 plus David, who last second decided to leave his group of henchmen to join their group for the best case of survival for himself. And the fourth group is Kate, Laurie, Yunjin, Adam, Yui, Ellen, and Lara. And this was kind of the group of outcasts that formed together because there are no other options. And the first 2 groups to play tug of war were David's led group of inseparable pairs of 2 and then the outcast group. And this went like the regular game of tug of war, where it was just an all-out brute force match, and David's led group of inseparable 2s came out victorious. And the final group to go was the core group of survivors versus the bad guys. The bad guys definitely outbrawned the original group of survivors, but the core group of survivors were studious on the previous tug of war game and developed a strategy to outsmart the brawn and were able to come out victorious. So heading back to the dormitory, the results were 14 survivors eliminated, meaning that the 14 remaining survivors split 31 billion won amongst each other. Things got really serious and also sad in round 4, where the survivors played marbles. Prior to the game starting, the survivors had to group up in pairs of 2, and then entering into the game room, the survivors each have 10 marbles, and they find out that they have 30 minutes to play any marble game they want, with the goal of one survivor in the pair taking all 10 of the marbles from the other survivor and winning. So this means that the pair is pitting up against each other, and one survivor in the pair has to win against the other. And seeing as if all of the survivors paired up with their closest ally, this led to some dramatic losses. Leon and Ada paired up together, seeing as if Leon had a huge crush on Ada in Resident Evil 2. And this is a pretty dramatic one where Leon actually ended up letting Ada win. But little did Leon know, Ada still would have tried to have won over him even if Leon didn't let her win. Michaela paired up with Sable, her best friend, and Sable would practically do anything for Michaela, so she just let Michaela win. Brother and sister Renato and Thelina paired up to each other, which was definitely the saddest pairing outside of the main characters, where after a lot of crying, Renato's brotherly love took over and he let Thelina win. And then it was bad guy group leader David and his right-hand man henchman Jake paired up next to each other, and neither David or Jake wanted to let the other win, and this was a legitimate marble game where David bested Jake and he was eliminated. So the character arcs between this pair and all of the rest of the main characters becomes pretty evident, where David is like Duck Su, player 101, and Jake is like the henchman, player 278. And moving on to the next pair, we got Naya and Dwight. Naya is like Sangwoo, or player 218, and Dwight is like Ali, or player 199. Exactly like in Squid Game, Naya deceives Dwight, who innocently trusted his life with Naya, and tragically and very sadly gets betrayed and eliminated. Moving on to the next pairing, we have Meg versus Bill. Meg is like Gyun, or player 456, because she's the prototypical main character of all of DBD, just like Gyun is the main character of Squid Game. And then Bill is like Il-nam, or player 1, because they're both old. Meg uses the fact that Bill is old to her advantage and beats him out due to her thinking Bill has no idea what's going on, and Bill does end up getting eliminated. But little do we know, at the very end, Bill just happens to have been running the game the whole time, and it was the creator of Squid Game, and he didn't actually get eliminated. And then moving on to the saddest main character pairing, we had Feng Min versus Claudette. Feng is like Saibyuk, or player 67, because she's the absolute fan favorite in DBD, just like Saibyuk is the fan favorite of all of Squid Game. Game. And then Claudette is like Jeong or player 240 because she's the benevolent other fan favorite. And just like in Squid Game, Claudette is altruistic and chooses to sacrifice herself for Fang Min, saying that Fang Min has more to live than she does, so then she gets eliminated. So then going back to a very silent and solemn dormitory, the results from this round, 7 survivors were eliminated and the 7 remaining survivors split 38 billion won amongst each other. So then round 5 commences, and before heading into the game room, the 7 survivors need to pick a jersey number from 1 to 7, which little do they know determines their playing order for arguably the most intense game of the entire series, which is Glass Bridge, where it kind of resembles a game of hopscotch where it's 2 rows of glass panels where each section only 1 glass panel is safe, and if you step on the wrong one, it shatters and you fall to your death. Delita selected number 1, but since she's the first to go, she's also the first to fall to her death. David selected number 2 but refused to go forward, but with the clock ticking, Ada, who has number 3, decides to take action and sacrifices herself by pushing herself onto David, and both of them fall to their deaths. And then Michaela got number 4, and with her witch powers, she's able to predict which glass is safe and which isn't, and she's able to make it all the way to the second to last pane. But the VIPs don't like this, and they end up shutting off the lights, which makes it so that Michaela can no longer predict which pane is good and which one is bad. So she freezes up. But with little time remaining, Naya takes action and pushes Michaela into the next pane that shatters, which leads the way for the final 3 survivors, Naya, Fang, and Meg, to make it across the finish line. The glass panes all explode in celebration of them surviving, but unfortunately a large glass shard impales Fang, which injures her pretty badly. But heading back to the dormitory, 4 survivors were eliminated, which means there were only 3 survivors remaining, splitting 42 billion won amongst each other. So heading into the final dinner the night before round 6, nobody trusts Naya, and with Fang badly injured, Meg tries to go out and get Fang some help, but leaving Fang Min's side, Naya then takes that opportunity to kill off Fang Min. So heading into the morning of the final 6th round, only 2 survivors remain, Meg and Naya, with Fang Min having been eliminated, meaning them 2 would split 43 billion won amongst each other. The final game that Meg and Naya play is Squid Game, which is a classic playground game where one team is on offense and one team is on defense, and it gets its name because the court is shaped like a squid. But there is a deadly twist to this Squid Game where if one survivor kills the other survivor, they're declared the winner. So this just ends up being an all-out one-on-one brawl where Meg and Naya go all out and try and kill each other. Meg and Naya both almost end up killing each other multiple times, but in the end, Meg is triumphant against Naya. She doesn't want to kill Naya though, and she wants to just end the game outright so that both of them can split the prize of 43 billion won. But after being the surprise villain the entire Squid Game, Naya then takes the moral high ground and chooses to sacrifice herself to make Meg the lone winner of the Squid Games. It wasn't the way she wanted to win, but she'll come back with a vengeance in season 2. So yeah, guys, that was the DBD Squid Games. Comment below who you think should have won these games. I had a ton of fun making up this story of which survivors passed each round and Meg being the ultimate winner. This was super fun, and if you want to see it for season 2 and maybe even season 3 when that comes out, we get the full Squid Games, make sure to let me know in the comments below. So yeah, guys, that's been the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. This has been Sharpshot, and I will see you guys in the next video.